March 2018, Colombian cartel bosses wire $9 million to a Miami bank account. But this isn't drug money being laundered, it's payment to their most valuable asset. The account belongs to José Irizarry, a senior DEA agent with access to every cartel investigation in South America. For 3 years, Irizarry has been selling classified intelligence to the cartels he's supposed to be destroying. He warns them before raids. He reveals undercover agents. He helps them launder hundreds of millions in drug money. In return, cartels pay him in cash, luxury cars, and beachfront mansions. He's living like a kingpin while carrying a DEA badge. But Irizarry makes one fatal mistake. He can't stop spending. His Instagram posts show private jets, Lamborghinis, and $10,000 bottles of champagne. How did a federal agent become the cartel's most protected asset? And how long was he operating before anyone noticed? 2010, Miami DEA headquarters. José Irizarry is exactly what the DEA needs. He's Puerto Rican, fluent in Spanish, understands Latino culture, and has 12 years of federal law enforcement experience. The DEA is desperately trying to infiltrate South American cartels, and Irizarry seems perfect for undercover work in Colombia. Irizarry's background checks are clean. He worked for the Department of Homeland Security investigating financial crimes. He has a reputation as aggressive and effective. He knows how money laundering works, which makes him valuable for tracking cartel finances. In 2010, the DEA assigns him to Cartagena, Colombia, as part of a task force targeting cartel money laundering operations. Say his mission is simple: identify how cartels move drug profits from the U.S. back to Colombia, then dismantle those financial networks. Cartels make billions selling cocaine and heroin in America, but getting that cash back to Colombia is complicated. They can't just wire it. Banks report large transactions, so they use complex laundering schemes involving shell companies, trade-based laundering, and corrupt financial institutions. Irizarry's job is infiltrating these networks. He's supposed to pose as a corrupt money launderer willing to help cartels move cash. He builds relationships with cartel financial operators, gains their trust, then arrests them, and seizes their money. It's dangerous work requiring complete commitment. But Irizarry sees something else: opportunity. He realizes he has access to information worth millions to cartels. He knows which investigations are active. He knows when raids are planned. He knows which cartel members are actually undercover agents. This intelligence is incredibly valuable to organizations trying to avoid law enforcement, and Irizarry knows exactly how to sell it. Within months of arriving in Colombia, Irizarry makes contact with cartel financial operators not to arrest them, but to work with them. He tells them he can provide protection for their operations. For the right price, he'll warn them about investigations, reveal confidential informants, and help them move money safely. The cartels are skeptical at first. DEA agents approaching them with corrupt offers could be sting operations. But Irizarry proves himself by providing accurate intelligence about upcoming raids. When his warnings save cartel operations from being busted, they realize he's legitimate. A senior DEA agent is actually working for them. And Irizarry isn't asking for small payments. He wants millions, because he's not just providing information. He's actively helping cartels launder their drug profits using his DEA credentials. Here's how Irizarry's scheme works and why it's so brazen. As a DEA agent, Irizarry has authority to open undercover bank accounts as part of money laundering investigations. These accounts are supposed to be used for sting operations. Cartels deposit dirty money, DEA tracks it, then seizes it as evidence. But Irizarry opens undercover accounts for a different purpose: actually laundering cartel money for profit. He creates shell companies with names that sound legitimate. He opens bank accounts in these companies' names at banks in Miami, Panama, and Colombia. Then he tells cartel financial operators they can safely deposit drug profits into these accounts because they're protected by a DEA agent. The cartels wire millions into Irizarry's accounts. Instead of seizing this money as evidence, Irizarry moves it through multiple transactions to hide its origin, then wires it back to cartel-controlled accounts in Colombia. He charges 1% to 3% commission on every transaction. When you're laundering $100 million, that's $1 to $3 million in fees. But Irizarry gets even greedier. He doesn't just launder money, he steals from the cartels too. When cartels deposit $10 million for laundering, Irizarry might only send back $8 million, pocketing $2 million plus his commission. The cartels can't exactly complain to authorities that their DEA agent is stealing their drug money. Between 2011 and 2018, Irizarry launders over $9 million in cartel funds through his scheme. But the actual amount is likely much higher because those are just the transactions prosecutors can prove. Irizarry probably moved hundreds of millions that left no clear evidence. What makes this possible is that Irizarry's superiors at DEA don't closely monitor his undercover accounts. They trust him because he's a senior agent with years of experience. When Irizarry reports that he's running undercover money laundering operations to build cases against cartels, his bosses assume he's doing legitimate law enforcement work. They don't realize he's actually helping cartels launder real drug money for profit. Irizarry also recruits his wife, Natalia Gomez Irizarry, into the scheme. She's Colombian and helps him communicate with cartel operators. More importantly, she helps him spend and hide the money. They open bank accounts in her name. They buy properties in Colombia under her family's names. She becomes essential to concealing the money trail. For 7 years, this operates without detection. Irizarry is supposed to be investigating cartels, but he's actually their most valuable asset, a senior DEA agent providing protection and financial services. And he's getting extraordinarily wealthy doing it. This is where Irizarry makes his fatal mistake. He can't resist flaunting his wealth. If he'd lived modestly and hidden his money, he might have operated for decades. But Irizarry wants everyone to see his success. He buys a $1.4 million penthouse apartment in Cartagena with ocean views. He purchases a $30,000 Tiffany diamond ring. He buys a $100,000 watch. He acquires a Land Rover, a Lamborghini, Weiss, and multiple other luxury vehicles. He takes vacations to Dubai, Thailand, and Europe, staying in 5-star hotels. But the real problem is social media. Irizarry posts constantly on Instagram showing his lavish lifestyle. Photos of him on private jets, videos of him partying in nightclubs with bottles of Dom Perignon champagne that cost $10,000 each, pictures of his Lamborghini, shots of his beachfront apartment. He's living like a cartel boss while working as a DEA agent. His DEA colleagues notice, how is Irizarry affording this lifestyle on a government salary? DEA agents make $80,000 to $120,000 annually, depending on rank and location. Even senior agents can't afford million-dollar apartments and Lamborghinis. When coworkers ask about his wealth, Irizarry claims his wife's family is wealthy and they're supporting the lifestyle. Some colleagues are suspicious, but nobody reports it initially. The lavish spending also attracts attention from Colombian authorities. Local police, Bonins, notice an American DEA agent living in extreme luxury and start asking questions. Colombian anti-corruption investigators begin looking into Irizarry's finances. They discover bank accounts with large, unexplained deposits. They find property purchases that don't match his DEA salary. In 2017, Colombian authorities alert the DEA that one of their agents appears to be corrupt. DEA's Office of Professional Responsibility launches an internal investigation. They start monitoring Irizarry's financial transactions. They review his undercover operations. They interview his colleagues. What they discover is shocking. Irizarry has been opening undercover accounts that were never properly authorized. He's been conducting money transfers with no legitimate law enforcement purpose. His supposed undercover operations have never resulted in arrests or prosecutions. He's been systematically using DEA resources to launder money for cartels. Investigators also discovered that Irizarry has been stealing money from the DEA itself. He submitted fraudulent expense reports claiming reimbursement for operational costs that never occurred. He charged personal expenses to DEA credit cards. He diverted seized money that should have been deposited as evidence. By mid-2018, DEA has overwhelming evidence that Irizarry is corrupt. But they face a problem. Arresting a senior DEA agent for working with cartels is a massive embarrassment for the agency. It raises questions about how he operated for 7 years without detection. So initially, DEA tries to handle it quietly. As investigators dig deeper into Irizarry's activities, they discover the corruption is even worse than initially suspected. Irizarry wasn't working alone. He recruited other DEA agents and Colombian police officers into his scheme. Investigators identify at least 3 other people working with Irizarry. His wife Natalia was deeply involved in moving and hiding money. A Colombian police officer named Gustavo Yabrudi helped facilitate meetings with cartel operators and provided protection. Most disturbingly, other DEA personnel may have known about Irizarry's activities and either participated or looked the other way. The investigation also reveals that Irizarry was providing active intelligence to cartels about ongoing operations. Prosecutors find encrypted messages where Irizarry warns cartel members that specific shipments are being monitored or that raids are planned. In several cases, cartels successfully avoided seizures because of Irizarry's warnings, costing the U.S. government millions in lost drug seizures. Even more disturbing, Irizarry may have compromised undercover agents and confidential informants. Investigators find evidence suggesting he revealed identities of people working undercover for DEA. This potentially put their lives in danger. Some informants went missing or were killed during the period Irizarry was active, though prosecutors can't definitively prove he caused their deaths. In July 2018, DEA pulls Irizarry back from Colombia to Miami, officially for routine reassignment. But when he arrives, federal agents arrest him at the airport. He's charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit honest services fraud, using his government position for personal profit. The arrest becomes public in 2019, creating a scandal within DEA and federal law enforcement. How did a senior agent work for cartels for 7 years without detection? Why didn't his supervisors notice the obvious signs of corruption? Why weren't his lavish lifestyle and social media posts investigated earlier? Internal DEA reviews identify multiple failures. Supervisors didn't properly monitor Irizarry's undercover operations. Financial controls on undercover accounts were weak. Nobody verified that his investigations were producing results. His expenses weren't properly audited. The agency relied too much on trusting senior agents without adequate oversight. The scandal prompts reforms. DEA implements stricter monitoring of undercover operations. They require more frequent reviews of undercover accounts. They mandate that undercover operations must produce regular progress reports and results. They create better financial controls to prevent agents from stealing seized money or using DEA funds for personal expenses. But these reforms come too late to prevent the damage Irizarry caused. He helped cartels move millions, compromised investigations, and potentially endangered lives. His corruption lasted 7 years because the system trusted him without verification. In October 2020, José Irizarry pleads guilty to 19 federal charges, including conspiracy to commit money laundering, bank fraud, and aggravated identity theft. So the plea deal requires him to cooperate with investigators and provide information about everyone involved in his schemes. During his cooperation, Irizarry admits to stealing over $9 million from the DEA and cartels between 2011 and 2018. He confesses to opening fraudulent bank accounts, laundering cartel money, providing classified intelligence to criminals, and recruiting others into corruption. He details how his schemes worked and names other people involved. His wife, Natalia Gomez Irizarry, pleads guilty to separate charges of conspiracy to commit money laundering. She admits to helping move money, opening accounts, and purchasing assets to hide the proceeds. She's sentenced to 36 months in federal prison. Gustavo Yabrudi, the Colombian police officer who worked with Irizarry, is arrested in Colombia and extradited to the U.S. He pleads guilty to money laundering charges and receives a 51-month sentence. In January 2023, José Irizarry is sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. At his sentencing hearing, prosecutors describe his corruption as one of the most egregious betrayals of public trust in DEA history. They note that he lived like a cartel boss while carrying a badge, and that his actions undermined decades of law enforcement work against drug trafficking organizations. Irizarry is also ordered to forfeit $9.4 million, including his properties, vehicles, jewelry, and bank accounts. Federal marshals seize his Cartagena penthouse, his luxury cars, his watches, and all accessible assets. However, investigators believe significant money remains hidden in accounts they haven't located. The judge tells Irizarry at sentencing, "You didn't just betray your badge, you endangered every honest agent working to stop the cartels you were helping. Your actions put lives at risk and damaged our ability to fight drug trafficking." Irizarry is currently serving his sentence at a federal prison in Florida with a projected release date in 2035. His wife completed her sentence and was deported to Colombia. Yabrudi is serving his sentence and will be deported to Colombia upon release. The full extent of damage from Irizarry's corruption may never be fully known, but investigators have identified several major impacts on DEA operations and cartel investigations. First, Irizarry compromised multiple active investigations. His prosecutors identified at least 7 major operations between 2011 and 2018, where cartels successfully avoided detection, apparently due to intelligence Irizarry provided. These investigations involved hundreds of DEA agents, cost millions in operational funds, and took years to develop, all wasted because Irizarry warned the targets. Second, Irizarry's warnings helped cartels avoid seizures worth an estimated $50 to $100 million in drugs and cash. When cartels knew which shipments were being monitored, they rerouted them or canceled operations. The drugs still reached U.S. streets, but law enforcement lost opportunities to intercept them. Third, Irizarry may have revealed identities of confidential informants and undercover agents. Prosecutors found encrypted messages suggesting he provided information about people working for DEA. During the period he was active, several informants disappeared or were killed. While prosecutors can't definitively prove Irizarry caused these deaths, the timing is suspicious. Fourth, Irizarry damaged DEA's reputation and relationships with foreign law enforcement. Colombian authorities were furious that a senior American agent was corrupt. It strained cooperation between U.S. and Colombian agencies. Other countries became more cautious about sharing intelligence with DEA, fearing it might be compromised. Fifth, Irizarry's case revealed systemic weaknesses in DEA's internal controls. His corruption operated for 7 years, despite obvious red flags. The scandal prompted congressional investigations into DEA oversight and accountability. It led to budget scrutiny and reforms that changed how the agency operates. Perhaps most importantly, Irizarry showed cartels that even senior federal agents can be corrupted. His case became a model for how cartels target law enforcement. They learned they don't always need violence or threats. Sometimes they just need money and opportunity. After Irizarry's case became public, there was increased concern about other potentially compromised agents. The DEA conducted extensive internal reviews to identify if any other agents showed similar warning signs. Lavish lifestyles inconsistent with government salaries, unusual financial transactions, undercover operations that never produced results. Several agents were placed under investigation, though none reached the scale of Irizarry's corruption. His case remains one of the most damaging betrayals in DEA history. A senior agent who spent 7 years actively helping the cartels he was sworn to fight, all while living like the criminals he was supposed to be arresting.